My friend, welcome to Leadership Synergized. I'm your host, Kevin Smith, and today is a special episode as we close out another school year across the United States. It's the perfect time to highlight a remarkable leader who's been making positive waves in education right here in the southern part of the state of Indiana. I'm so very thrilled to welcome Coach Joe Wilson, an inspiring assistant principal at Springs Valley High School and also a passionate baseball coach for the Blackhawks. With a unique blend of youthful energy and genuine dedication, Coach Wilson has been shaping the lives of students and athletes in his community, fostering a culture of growth and excellence. Just days removed from wrapping up a competitive baseball season, he's here to share valuable insights about leadership in education, in coaching, as well as the importance of self-reflection and his journey back to his alma mater. Join me, if you would please, in welcoming Coach Joe Wilson to the show. Last week, we were talking about just who Coach Joe Wilson is, the rhythm of life with all the responsibilities and roles you play, from father to husband to son to a school administrator, child of God, baseball coach and brother, and much, much more as a leader and mentor. And we wrapped up the session. You were talking about how you're able to sustain that rhythm of life. And I think you hit upon something that I really hadn't considered before in listening to your response to my question last week. And rhythm doesn't always mean we're in tune, right? In that aspect, there's a time or two we may hit the sour note, which is the examples you were giving, and we get pulled right back. But you were talking, and it led me to the value and something that I've noted. You and I have had a number of interactions for more than 2 years now. And you just seem so well grounded and self-aware of who Joe Wilson is and the path and purpose that God has you on moving forward. Yet there's a lot of pressure when we look at today's youth, the students in your school perhaps, or in other schools around our country. The pressure from a number of different ways in that fashion. You mentioned about how much your mom and dad has played a role in developing your rhythm and allowing you to be comfortable with who you are. Talk a bit about those challenges that our children have today in schools and what parents can do, and some of the best you've seen from parents with students you've had in your classroom, or maybe as an administrator, that you could share maybe for others who may be struggling in that regard today.
I think from my perspective, the worldly view is it's lying to our kids, our youth, and they're wanting you to seek money, seek fame, seek all these different partners, this and that. And I just see it in school day to day, where just broken kids coming from broken homes, and they're just set back from an early age. And that's honestly the biggest thing that keeps me going every day, that I want to help the lost. And maybe they're not completely out of there, but that's just where my heart's at. And I come in every day, and morning prayer, I'm asking God to give me the words to speak. If you want me to speak, give me the words to speak, or break my heart for what breaks yours. And man, just the loss. And there comes an aspect that I just see within, I think, growing up as a kid, my dad being a preacher, but then also with different church things, just being a preacher within our home, that there was always an aspect. I'm like, all right, I know, I get it. I wish it'd be in our Bible, this and that. And it was almost more so make dad happy in a way. And it wasn't that I wasn't in my faith and whatnot, but it just seemed like it was like a law or a rule book that we had to do this. And the more I'm in education and the more my experiences, man, it's a guidebook. It's not a rule book, it's a guidebook. And it just seems, whenever, from my perspective, the ones I look in the cafeteria and I look across, and it seems like the ones who are coming from a place of a firm foundation from their home life, the kids they operate quite a bit differently in a responsible way. And they just don't seem to have, life hasn't hit them yet. They haven't been hurt by society. They haven't been hurt by heartbreak. And there's other ones who aren't. They're already having to deal with some very hard issues at age 10, 11, 12. We got junior high kids that, if we shared their stories, it'd just break your heart. And so, talking to those kids, and there's a lot of them that they'll come in and they just start venting and this and that. And they're comfortable with me. And it's funny because they'll talk and like, well, I'll talk to my therapist about this or that. And I'm like, and obviously I'm not a licensed therapist and I don't know those strategies. And I'll ask them, I'm like, so what does your therapist do that helps? And so I don't really know. I've been through my third or fourth one already in the past 2 months. And what I found is it's so interesting is the kids, they don't necessarily want a strategy onto how to improve. They just want somebody to care about them. And just be a listening ear and to care about them. And looking back at my own upbringing, I always had that. I was always in my house. My parents were always there. They always cared about you. And it's just loving the kids is just so powerful. And they can sense if you truly love them or not. And so one of the, I guess, mantras that I live by or I steal from is love God, love people, and pray always. I still love God, love people from Daryl at church, and then pray always. I still stole from my dad, and we just put it together. But I don't think we have to know how to fix society, what the strategies are, but we know who to go to with it. We know I think society is preaching, go this way, go that way. This will help you out. This will take these 8 different medications and this will help you out. And I understand there's mental health issues and I completely understand. However, I also, in my own upbringing, that I know where the source is. I know where to go get the help. I know with my issues. And so that's the part I want to try to share with kids as much as possible. But you don't have to come out and just say, I think just in me trying to be an example, that if it seems like I've got my stuff together and I can show them love, hopefully they do pick up on my personality, or hopefully I'm reflecting fruits of the Spirit. And hopefully down the line, maybe they'll see, okay, I understood where his source was at the whole time. And maybe it's one of those that I respond to somebody's example. I just watch. And so I try to be that person. Even whenever I'm in chaotic times, whenever I just got chewed out by a parent or I just had this and that, I'm still going to do my darndest to still operate in the way that Christ would. And it's not easy, and I fail at it most times. But I'm hoping to be that example, because that's I had wonderful people who set that for me, and that's the goal that we're trying to set for others. And if all else, loving the kids. If the kids can go home that day knowing one person loved them, one person talked to them, one person actually cared about them, then that's a start. That's a start.
Coach, I heard you mention there, and at least paraphrasing, it's all about providing them with the hope, compassion, and stability that they've got this aspect. What really brings that all, the hope that when I listen to you and the other we've had over more than 2 years now, it's really that leader, that mentor, who's that parent, that grandparent who's not just true to self, so you can be true to them.
Yeah, I think it's so important, consistency, and I try to really show it on the baseball field too. That way they know what kind of coach I'm going to be as well. And I agree that consistency part is very overlooked. I think it is so important for these kids.
Coach, I'm going to just back a little bit because you told me you just love talking about yourself. I want to back and just go back to Joe Wilson, the person, and looking at the careers. Talk a bit about why education. Why is Joe Wilson an educator?
I'll be honest, when I first started, or when high school went through, I went into education to coach. That was the beginning. I was that athlete, whatever. I wanted to get into it. And then I went into college and started getting into my practicum experiences. And that's where I fell in love with the education side. And education's one part. This probably sounds terrible, and I'm not necessarily in it for the education, which I think can open doors fantastically. I'm in it for the kids. That's what wears on me, the ones that have been, again, dealt a bad hand to begin with. And so that's where I want to help them be in the education realm and see that doors can be open for them and love on them. But again, I went into it hoping I could coach, and then fell in love with that education aspect, and then started teaching, and eventually got back into the coaching aspect. But and again, I think it was part of watching. I had my dad as a coach coming up through, and I didn't want to be a coach because of, I think I could win all the state titles or get all the wins, but it was because I would see him in the Little League pick the kid who no one else would pick. Get the player that I knew, they were classmates of mine, and I knew what he was doing, and he knew that there was no dad in the home. There was no one helping this my classmate, and I didn't realize it until years later, but he was doing it the whole way through. And man, I want to do that because I just can't imagine. And then fast forward, 2019 went from being the best year of my life, graduating college, marrying my wonderful bride, getting landing my first teaching job, and then lose my dad in 2019 and late in October of that year. So quickly went from unexpectedly to the best year I'm going through, and we're rocking and rolling, and then he's gone. And man, does that rock your world when you lose your guy like that. But then at the same time, that's a constant reminder that this we're here for a short time, and we're not here for worldly goals. We're not here for earthly goals. We're here to, as the Great Commission, we're to spread the gospel and baptize and spread the word. And we got a short time to do it. And you're just seeing that he was gone and all of his stuff was here. It was just, man, it was eye opening. And worst time of my life by far, but also it changed my perspective that I got a short time and I got a lot of work to do, because there's home lives and it's not fair. And if they're not getting it at home, somebody else needs to carry that, and somebody else needs to help them with it, and somebody needs to do it. Why not me? So that's where my mindset has changed. Again, it started because I wanted to be a state championship coach, and hopefully that does happen, but that's not the end goal whatsoever. I just want to help, support, and love.
And Coach, talk a bit about the transition from being a classroom teacher for what, 5, 6 years, and then moving administration. What was the biggest adjustment for you?
Not being liked. No, it's being not taken away, but not being with the kids necessarily every day has been tough, where you can just naturally build that rapport in the classroom. And then going into, it's funny, you go from at one school where I was teaching high school math to I would have some ideas here and there, and I'd try to share that with admin or whatever, and he just probably falls on deaf ears. And then you happen to take on a new job, new title, and all of a sudden then people are asking me for my advice. And I go, whoa, a month ago, no one would really listen to me or have an idea. So then all of a sudden you take that admin role and everybody thinks you have all the answers. And so that couldn't be farther from the truth either, but I love it. I love it because I see it as a way where I can help a lot of people, and not just students. I think teachers are just they're the best people in the world. Other than healthcare workers, they're out to love and support, but to be a teacher, you got to have a huge heart, and you got to be open to love on other kids. And if you want to think that teachers are in it for the summers and just in that's fine. You can think that, but I can promise you they're all in it because they just love and adore the kids. And in this role, I try to just block them out from all the outside noise if I can. Whenever there's upset parents, because there is every day, there's upset whatever, I want to try to support and protect the teachers so they can go do and love on these kids, because that's what it's all about. And education is not the easiest right now. There's a lot of tough things going on, but man, we gotta stick to it and protect them and love and foster, because when teachers feel loved and appreciated, and then they can go do that with the kids, and they need it the most. And so then it becomes a well-oiled machine, or at least that's how it works in my brain. I'm hoping we're at that point, but it is an adjustment. But I think my same identity, same foundations are the same. I'm able to do it in a different way, where it was more in the classroom, it was just all about the kids. Now it's about the staff and the kids. So, but it is different, but I love it. I truly do. Even the bad days. I probably don't love it on that bad day, but I'm like, you know what? I'm in it for a reason. So I truly enjoy it.
Coach, you hit upon a very good topic, a point there that I want to capture before we wrap up this week's episode. And that sometimes that vision, so to speak, when you're looking outside in at the world of education or the individual teacher, is that teacher is standing alone and almost working against a child. At least we hear that a lot, right? And what a fallacy that is, because you hit upon, I love the way you connected the dots. Every classroom teacher is really an extension of the individual children that are in that classroom. They're not separate, they're all one. in that
Yeah.
sequence and piece. And when I think about through life, and athletics has been a valued part of your life and development, it has been for mine, not from skill piece, but as much as just being around it helped bring self-confidence and abilities and values that were not thought of. But I think about how successful your baseball team grew this year when you were describing off camera before we started recording here today, from beginning to end, but they became one in listening to you describe them. And I'm thinking that's really what each classroom teacher is doing every year, but they just don't have the public viewing that come together as that one sequence piece. How can we change that? How can we better educate our communities and our world that when they see their child, they're really seeing their teacher right there with them?
It's probably an aspect that I know for us, I love and hate social media all at the same time. And I think there's a lot of, it seems that in our community, the more social media around here is negative. It's from the outside attacking us or pointing the finger at us for different ways. And I think we need to do a better job of pushing out our teachers, how wonderful of a staff we have in here. And maybe it's a smaller piece. It doesn't always have to be after from standardized testing. Just the small things that teachers do every single day where we could list stories after stories, but of them just being a listening ear, them just putting an arm around a kid when they're at their lowest, and just being fantastic human beings, that love and that care and that support. And I understand from an education standpoint, you're thinking, why are we pushing that and not preparing for the SAT or preparing for iReady or iLearn or whatever? And I understand that. However, if these kids don't feel comfortable and loved and well supported, we're never going to get to that being high testing, because they're just not even thinking. That's not even in their realm right now. And so I don't know how to push it, but there's just a lot of negative, and probably from us too. We get into a room and we're thinking, oh man, there's education is going down, it's all bad, da. But it's probably 10% of the gig. We need to foster and we need to push the positives, that we're still doing great things, but it's like anger. You let it, if you don't get rid of anger, it just festers inside you. And we probably do a bad job of that at times in the education world, because we can't go complaining out in the world. So we complain to each other, and next thing you know, we're all complaining. But man, we just need to stay more positive and stay pushed out that there's still wonderful teachers on the front lines fighting the fight every single day. And you might not ever know their name, but I can tell you from our small town and our small school that there are just wonderful in every room that are doing great things to share and love and support these kids who aren't again, it's not their kids. It's not even though they've got their own biological kids throughout the building, they're still loving on other people's kids. And it's just showing and reflecting. That's not something easy, and that's not something everybody's gifted with. And I think we need to honor that, respect that, show that, because unfortunately we're not getting that from the rest of the world. So maybe schools, we need to do a better job of uplifting our people who are in here. I know for sure we need to do a better job, but praise and honor them, I'd say.
Coach said no more words need to be stated in that aspect, and every educator loved and valued so much for those of us that truly understand what goes on in the trenches. And we're going to pick up there next week, Coach, when we come back for week 3. Thank you again, my friend, for being with us. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
My friend, thank you for joining us for this inspiring conversation with Coach Joe Wilson. His passion for education and his commitment to lifelong learning shines through in everything that he does, reminding us, all of us, of the importance of observing, reflecting, and staying true to ourselves in our leadership journeys. I hope that you have gained some valuable insights and inspiration as well to apply in your own life and work. Be sure to tune in next week as we continue our discussion with Coach Joe Wilson on those vital needs that ensure success in education. Until then, remember, leadership is about growing together, and every experience is a stepping stone to further wisdom and understanding. Stay inspired, my friend. Keep leading with purpose.